Welcome to Lewis and Clark Caverns State Park here in beautiful Montana, Big Sky country. And it is a beautiful day to be going on a cave tour. Here I'm going on the Paradise Tour. It's a 1.5 hour tour that's going to take us through 2 caverns. So I think they're just about ready to start. Here is the visitor center. Well, maybe I'll peek in the visitor center on my way out. But there's the visitor center, and we'll take a peek in there a little bit and see if there's some more stuff. But here it is right here. There's the tour tickets. So they offer 2 tours. They offer the classic tour, and then they offer the Paradise Tour. Paradise Tour goes right between level easy and very easy. And the classic tour is more of a difficult tour. So they tell you to bring a jacket. It's going to be 48 degrees down there. Unflavored water only, no food or drink. Good walking shoes. So I'm going to get in the queue over here. Interestingly enough, when I bought tickets, it was pretty much sold out. You know, you gotta reserve your tickets in advance, and in doing so, show up 30 minutes early. So here's the group that we'll be going on the tour with. It was quite a drive up here. Quite a drive. This is, I don't know what the elevation is, but should make for a wonderful tour. Okay, the tour is starting.
Once I'm done with this information here, if any of you still need to use the facilities, you're welcome to go across the parking lot there to the only restroom that's on this mountain. Once you go past me here, you get to hold it for the next hour and a half. Yeah. Next part ahead of us here, we have a lovely flat half-mile to the visitor center, which you're welcome to take full 30 minutes to make. Most folks take about 15 minutes to get there. At the end of this lovely little hike here, there's going to be a sun shelter, which I'm going to be offering some history before we make our way underground today. Now, for this entire trek today, you are welcome to bring clear, unflavored water with you. You may take it for the entire tour today. There is 1 trash can at the sun shelter down there. After that point, whatever you have with you will be staying with you. Beyond that, friends, there is no snacks, no candy, no flavored water or gum allowed inside the cave. There's also no chewing tobacco, vaping products, or smoking allowed inside the cave. You'd be surprised how many times I have to fight folks on this. It will not happen on the tour today, friends, as it happens to be a felony these days, so make sure it does not happen. Now, if you need to take something with you today for a medical need, please just let me know in advance. That way I can work with you inside the cave, and most importantly, I have some prior warning, as I will be your lifeline out today. There is no cell phone service inside the cave, so just let me know, friends. That way I can help you if needed. Now, last little bits of importance here before we make our way down. As you make your way down the trail here, please stay towards the center. Don't climb through the brush or shrubbery to either side, as it does happen to be tick season. You don't want to be dealing with those after your tour today. I will also ask you not to kick or throw anything off the side, as we do have maintenance crews working in the lower park here, and we don't want to introduce any of them to a rock today. Last bit of importance here. I have to ask if any of you here on my tour have been in a different cave or mine in the last 5 years. No? Excellent, that makes this real easy, friends. I'm asking this in regards to white nose syndrome. This is a fungal infection that's spreading across the United States. It originated in Northern Europe. We do not have it in this cave yet. We're trying very hard to keep it that way, as it has just shy of a 90% mortality rate for the bats it infects. I ask about that 5-year period, as if you had been in a contaminated cave or mine in that time, and you're wearing any of the same clothing, talking shoes, glasses, hats, watches, any of it, you would still be carrying the spores with you. Standard washing machines do not get hot enough for anywhere near long enough to kill that fungus. Most folks don't get something like your watch here bathroom with pure alcohol. That's what's required to kill that fungus. It's not a very common occurrence. Now, friends, that's my seriousness done for a hot minute. My name is Huckleberry. I will be your tour guide today. I do respond to hey, you, and tour guide on occasion, but don't if you say it real nice like. I'm going to check your tickets, start you on the trail here. This will be your last call to go use the restrooms if you need them. Whoever's first, I'll take it.
Okay, we're on our way, and we have a special guest today on the tour. This would be Penelope's owner, Julianne. Hello, Julianne.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. Fancy meeting you here.
Huh?
Fancy meeting you here.
Oh, it is, huh?
Oh, yeah.
So everyone, this is the mystery woman. This is the mystery woman. Everybody's always wondering why I'm making such big meals. You know, and they're
Maybe
thinking
I have a really big appetite.
exactly.
Maybe
You know,
Penelope does.
so you're Penelope's owner, huh?
Yes,
Penelope is the most beautiful creature I've ever met.
I agree. I
You-
concur.
You concur. All right, folks. So I've known Julianne for the better part of, 2 years now?
Yeah.
Something like that. And have had just a wonderful friendship. So this is gonna look at how beautiful it is here. Isn't that gorgeous? It's just spectacular. When's the last time you've been in a cave, Julianne?
I seriously don't remember.
You don't?
I really don't. It's been a long, long time.
Are you looking forward to this?
Yeah, of course.
You
Yeah,
are, huh?
I am. I went to the glowworm caves at night in a boat in New Zealand.
But you said you don't like bats.
There were no bats there.
Huh?
Are there bats here?
No, but there's bats
There's
here.
bats here. I don't like bats. Who likes bats?
I don't know. All
Freaks.
right.
Dracula. Dracula likes bats.
Yeah. So this should be interesting, folks. All right. Here we go. All right. We've reached our way down to the... I don't know if this is the starting point. It likely is.
Yeah.
So quite a hike coming down here. Look at the views. It's probably the better part of maybe a 10-minute hike getting down here. So Huckleberry should be near here somewhere. Wow. Just beautiful. Looking to see if I can see the campground down there somewhere where we're staying. Oh, here comes Huckleberry. He's coming up the trail.
I'm going to start this with a little bit of a loaded question. Who do you think may have discovered our cave system here? Any guesses? Because it is a loaded question.
Yeah, it's not Lewis and Clark.
Not Lewis and Clark. That gives me a broad section to work with here, friends. Just going to take it chronologically. The bats that call this cave home do have us beat by a couple hundred years. They do happen to win. From there we go on to the natives, more particularly the Blackfeet Nation. Now they'll know this mountain, they'll know this cave, but they will never explore it. For a few reasons, it's going to make a whole lot more sense as my history goes on here today. They will offer this mountain a name. Before I give it to you, I'm instead going to skip ahead a little bit. We go to 1805. We have Lewis and Clark traveling through our valley here. Now they'll be just down there at the Jefferson River. Lewis would actually be straight across the valley there, over the top of my visitor center to that next mountain way out there, where you can currently see that AT&T cell phone tower. They happen to be traveling through here in the summer, so they never got to see why the Blackfeet would name this the Smoking Mountain. There, skip ahead again, about 1892. We have Bert Parnell and Thomas Williams. There's going to be two hunters, ranchers from the Whitehall region, which is just around the corner to our west. These two will be down pretty close to where my campground is now, in the middle of November, hunting for the day. They'd find themselves looking up the valley here to a point that's just about 320 feet directly above us here, where they think someone is in danger, because they see a signal fire. So they cut their way through the snow of this valley, get to the base of this mountain, climb some 800 vertical feet to get to that point. Now what awaits them for all that heroic effort is not smoke, but steam, friends. As year-round, it matters not if it's 100 degrees out here or negative 40 degrees out here. We have a lovely average of 47 degrees throughout this cave system here, year-round. So if you happen to be here in the colder months, just like they were as they found themselves here in the middle of November, you can still see that very same steam rising from the natural entrance up there where those two found themselves. Now as these two are staring down this gaping maw, they look to each other and have a little conversation. It very quickly turns into an argument, as they're debating whether or not they are brave enough to dip their toes in this mysterious hole in the rock they found. Now, as this conversation goes on, they quickly realize a few things. Chief among them, they brought no light, they brought no rope. Most importantly, they told no one where they were going for the day. What would settle this argument for these two is that one of them pick up a stone and drop it down that entrance. They'd hear it tumble and tumble and tumble again. Would any of you like to guess how many more times I can do that? It's only a few more times, friends. About 57 more times. They don't really hear it come to an end. So they look to each other and decide, we'll come back in the summer. So they hike down the mountain here, down the valley, heading back on home. Now that whole journey must have spooked them a little bit. It would take them some 6 years before they felt brave enough to return to our mountainside here. This time, came prepared. Came with a group of friends, lights, ropes, driving spikes. They'd set themselves that natural entrance and climb down just a bit shy of 60 feet before they could actually start exploring this cave system here. And once they could explore, Williams would take a keen interest in our cave. So much so over the next couple years, he would actually try to offer his own tours through the mountainside. But he'd run into a few problems pretty quickly. First of which being he didn't have the means or the know-how. Try and develop this cave in any location, any partition here, to make it easier to travel his guests through. Because at the time, each person he'd hike all the way up the mountain here, he'd have to lower down by rope that 60-foot drop. He also couldn't market this tour, so it was only his friends, his neighbors that were coming to take it. And there's only so many times they were willing to let him lower them down that drop. So he'd eventually have to abandon this little idea of his. Now, before he'd wash his hands of it entirely, he would reach out to a local businessman. And if any of you here on my tour today happen to be traveling from the west side of our river road, from the Cardwell, Whitehall area, you may have seen this great big old pit into the side of the mountain. This happens to be Dan Morrison's limestone quarry. It's the very businessman that Williams reached out to. Morrison will make his way up here, take one look throughout this mountainside, go, all right, I'm interested. Enough so that he'd sit through the paperwork of filing for the mineral rights to the limestone layer we're about to visit today, mistakenly believing he'd connect the some 2 miles over to his own limestone quarry. He'd then make his way up the mountainside here with some blasting equipment and blow another great big old hole in the side of the mountain here to make his tours that much easier to offer. He'd then travel throughout the mountainside behind me and install some 2,000 wooden steps throughout the entire thing. Now, don't fret, friends. We're barely going to use a fraction of that today. He'll name this the Limespur Caverns. He's going to start bringing folks in from all across the country to take his tour through the mountain. Ours today is but a humble hour and a half long. Would any of you like to guess how long the Morrison tour might have been? 5 hours. Still going up?
Yeah.
12 hours long. Now, the tour did have a little help. You started in Butte, Montana, where you got on the train. You took that train 45 miles down that valley there. Now, you think they'd be nice and let you out right down there at the head of our valley? Not so much, friends. From Morrison's blasted entrance to the top, you can look down to the Jefferson River and follow it to the east. Past the first bend, past the second, almost to the third and the next valley over. You can still see a little building down there on the corner, right next to the railway. That happens to be just about right for the train stop for Limespur, a town that no longer exists. You'd be let out down there. You then have to hike up the river, up the valley, up the mountain. Some 1,400 vertical feet by the time you got to that entrance up there. You did all of that in the first 2 hours. You then climbed throughout the mountainside here, coming to a stop 6 hours into your tour. A section called the Brown Waterfall Room, where you catch your breath, enjoy your lunch, turn around and climb all the way back out. Your tour is not done until you were back down there on that train. And despite how difficult this tour sounds, it's becoming incredibly popular. So much so that the owners of that very same track down there that he is using to bring his guests to this mountainside get curious enough to ask a little question. Where'd you say those folks were going? We got another little problem, friends. When a railroad's given the land for their track, they are not just given the land underneath it. To encourage them to keep moving forward, to keep developing, they're given the land in a checkered pattern to either side of that track, going all the way along it. Looking at a land claim map of the time, would any of you like to guess what just so happens to belong to the North Pacific Railroad?
Really, this place.
It's home place here, friends. Montana's got a funny little cave law in play. If you happen to own the land where the cave entrance is, you own that cave. Despite Morrison having filed for the limestone mineral rights here, the railroad superseded that ownership. Now, they would try to contest this in court. Unfortunately, the North Pacific Railroad had a fair bit more assets to their play, and they very easily won that lawsuit. So Morrison would be evicted, but he'll be awarded some $5,000 for all the renovation work he did throughout this mountain. He's gone. Railroad now has this mountain uncontested. They now know this great big cave that's on their land. Simply put, they have no idea what to do with it. It's all the way up here. They're tracked down there. They have no reason to operate in any fashion. So the most they do for this mountain here is they send a kid up from that train depot up through Morrison's entrance to his gate with a padlock, where they lock it and abandon it. And they'll do nothing else with this cave system here until they eventually offer it to the federal government under the Antiquities Act. Now the federal government has this mountain here. They're also not too sure what to do with this. At the time, they do have a few other caves in their jurisdiction. They have Carlsbad, they have Mammoth. These caves happen to be by much larger population centers. At the time, we're kind of in the middle of nowhere out here. So they don't want to take the time, the resources, to develop this location any, to make it easier to travel all of you through the mountainside here. So they in turn do the best they can, which is actually to make this mountain here somebody else's problem. As they put this mountain to the jurisdiction of the closest ranger group, which happens to be a rather popular place these days. It's about 120 miles straight that way, going to Yellowstone. Now the Yellowstone Rangers are in charge out here, and that's a 3-day trip by horseback to get here. So they make that trip about once a year. They have to make that trip because of somebody who still has a quarry just around the corner. As each year, Morrison would watch those Rangers make the trip all the way up here, turn around and leave. When they would get down past Limespur there, Morrison would just leave his limestone quarry, come around the corner here, go through his entrance, go to his gate, and see that lock. Use a universal key on that lock, otherwise known as a pair of bolt cutters to the uninitiated. He'd replace that lock with his own, and this little song and dance of theirs will go on till 1932. Now the only reason he finally stopped in 32, it's not that he got caught. It's that he passed away of old age in his bed. The only thing that could stop him from offering his illegal tours on federal land. Now with Morrison's passing here, we find ourselves in the midst of the 30s. Great Depression's gripping the nation. There's not much work to be had, not a whole lot of money to go around. To try and fight this, the locals reach out to the state to the federal government with a very simple proposition. Surrender it to us. We'll manage it, we'll make it prosper. All the federal government would need to do would be to provide the manpower and the funding to make it all happen. Oddly enough, they actually agreed to that one-sided deal. And we find ourselves in 1935. President FDR deployed the 533rd chapter of the Civilian Conservation Corps. It's going to be some 210 young men, average age of 19. They will be paid $1 a day at 3 square meals. And these young men will do most of the work you see for this park, even now. They built the road that all of you use today to get to that visitor center where you met me. They built that visitor center, carved these trails in the mountainside here, widened Morrison's entrance at the top, went down throughout the mountainside here and ripped out every single board of Morrison's wooden staircases and replaced it with the very same that are in use today. Some 612 hand-carved stone steps that would take them 3 days a step to carve from the very rock of this mountain. They'd also make a few connecting tunnels, so it's much easier to travel between the rooms. And finally, to even allow our tour here today to be possible, they blast the exit tunnel. This is some 538 feet long, from door to door. It'd take them 18 months to blast that tunnel, averaging barely a foot a blast. So they'd have to blast, haul away that material, rinse, recycle, and repeat. Now when they finally made their way into the chambers that we will be visiting today, the center for their hole was less than 3 inches off the mark for where they wanted to be. It's an incredible feat of engineering, especially when you factor most of their measurements to get them to that point were done by line of sight and string. Now that I've complimented them a few times, I can safely take it back. They just created quite the problem for us today, friends. That problem comes in the form of pressure. That is hot, high pressure outside cold low pressure inside, at the coldest, lowest portion of a vertical cave system. That means when they broke through that last section of rock, they let the wind in, traveling anywhere from 5 to 45 miles an hour. That wind would force its way into that room, destroying many of the more delicate formations that we'll be seeing today. That wind would travel up through the mountainside, doing that same harm to the rest of the cave, about the next 4 days. So that's as long as it would take the Conservation Corps to construct the airlock for our way in and out today. This is 2 doors, and this is the important part. When we make use of this tunnel here, I will be the only one to touch those doors. It's not terribly nice to have that 2-inch thick oak door with iron reinforcements get slammed into your chest here, going about 20 miles an hour, friends. It's nowhere near as hot today, but it can still move those doors with speed and force to make sure none of you come to harm. I'm the only one to touch those doors. Are you all set on that part, friends?
Yes.
Excellent. I have 2 more bits of importance before we go in. First part, once again, for all of your safety. Once we get through those lovely doors, which happen to be the original doors, by the way, we find ourselves into the finale room, and the paradise room behind it. Once we get into that portion there, at every chance you have, please use the railings. Those hand-carved steps have been walked on every day for 90 years. They have been worn smooth and polished. They look beautiful for it, but they will be incredibly slippery. So please use the railings. Last part here is actually for this cave safety. We are about to be traveling into a living cave. That means it is thriving, it is still growing, as long as we do not touch it. This is thanks to the oils we naturally generate. We're leaving them behind just as you're all here listening to me now. That oil means that wherever we touch it, it can never grow again. So please make sure you are only touching the flattened paved path, staircases, and the railings. That is no sitting on, leaning on, climbing on, stepping on any of the formations or the cave walls themselves. You all set on these last rules here, friends? Excellent. Let's make our way inside.
All right, with all that being said, here we go. Here is the entrance. I'm anxious to see the steps. I'm anxious to see the door that only Huckleberry will touch. And boy, you know, I have to say I've been on countless tours over the years such as this, and I don't think I've ever had somebody such as Huckleberry give such an elaborate, detailed, informative, maybe that's the word, informative history into what we're about to experience here as these folks take some pictures at the entrance of the cave. So give you a view looking out. Somewhere down there is the campground. But here we go. I'm hoping my camera should be able to film in
We
here
are going
in
to
the
be
dark.
in the coldest part of our cave here with about 100% humidity, so take that how you will. Like your
Here we
coat.
go. So here's the door right here that he was talking about. There's the door.
All original.
All original. How old is this door?
This will be installed in 1942.
1942. Wow.
It's in actually very good shape for what it is.
Sure it is.
This is
Okay.
Huckleberry's ticket booth entering the cave.
Okay, here we go. I don't know how well this is going to work with the lighting. We'll see. I'll selectively film as we go through here. I'm sure they probably have some lights down in the actual caverns. Okay, we found our way into the caverns.
Pick some different.
Trying to give you a good
intensify.
Welcome to the finale room, friends. This is where our tour is both going to begin and end today. Here in the finale room, I have an opportunity to show all of you an example of just about every type of formation that we will see for the rest of our tour today. I think we're going to start today with some flow stone. Now flow stones create as the water travels over the rock face here. That water evaporates. It leaves behind the minerals that it was carrying, creating this flowing pattern rather similar to a waterfall. Hence the name flow stone. From there, we go to the first of our drip stones, one of the most iconic, the stalactites here. Now for our stalactites, the water travel over the outside of the formation here, and then start to strike the floor, where it start to create our stalagmites. Now these are always in a set, friends, where there's a type, there will be a mite. Given enough time and flow of water, they will eventually meet and create a column, like this great big old structure just beside me here. Now, as we're talking about that flow of water, the water that creates all of this, that you can hear dripping onto these formations that covers these stairs here. All of this is the lifeblood of the very cave system around us. All of that water begins way up above us as snowpack and rain, the top of our mountainside. That water then makes its way through the rock after mixing with a little bit of the carbon dioxide of the air outside and create carbonic acid. This is the same thing that's in sodas, friends. It's just acidic enough that it can start to dissolve away the limestone layer of the rock surrounding us. It'll pick up those minerals, bring it into this cavernous space here, where it has enough space that that water can then evaporate, leaves behind those minerals. Means as we travel through these rooms here, you're going to see kind of a plethora of color. You're going to see first kind of a stark white. That's going to be mostly calcite, one of the most abundant types of minerals of our mountainside here. As we get deeper into the paradise room behind me, you can see vibrant hues from kind of a chocolate milk all the way to a salmon pink. It's just been thanks to the minerals that are allowed to deposit here. And mostly thanks to the great big old iron deposit that makes up most of the ceiling of the paradise room behind me.
Okay, here we go into the,
Now the lovely pattern of the stairs here that you'll be traveling
here we
over
go into the
is where
Huckleberry.
the Conservation Corps actually cut their way through the formations that make up this room to make these very stairs. Those white bands are going to be calcite. Sections
Ask
a little kind of
Huckleberry to
like
shine his
chocolate milk.
flashlight for
That's
me
going to be
on
about 15 to 20% iron. And the really dark, rich bands are going to be a little bit of phosphate and manganese, about less than 10% of either.
Very, very interesting. Okay, here we go into the paradise room. And I'll ask Huckleberry maybe if he'd be kind enough to shine his flashlight on that formation so I can give you a good
I absolutely can.
look at that.
So these kind of ribbon sections here that my light's directly on, it's called ribbon rock. It's part of the flowstone family. The water will take the same path over and over again, creating those protruding ribbons, rather similar to bacon.
Very
actually
cool.
here.
And let me show everybody the steps. Look at the steps, folks. Isn't that something? All right, let's go into the paradise room. This is really cool. It almost looks like wax formations. Wow. Look at that. I wish I would have brought a flashlight. So, okay. Oops.
Gotta watch where you're going.
Okay. Yeah.
As you can see, friends, smallest platform possible. I will actually ask you there, friend, kind of behind you, on that railing, press that big old green button for me. And welcome to the Paradise Room properly.
Wow.
Largest room of the entire cave system. Throughout the some 2 miles worth of cave that happens to stretch above our heads here, the largest of those rooms that the classic tours do visit would be the Garden of the Gods, which could fit twice over inside the Paradise Room here. Just to give you a bit of an idea of that sense of scale that you're working with. Now, as I've talked about the grand size here, it might be kind of hard to fathom that size, as you have no point of reference here inside the cave. So I'm the great big old white formation. Now, would any of you like to guess how tall the candlestick is? 30 feet? Far too many. Standing 6 feet tall, friends. Now that you have an idea of how tall it is, white one on the left. Would any of you like to guess how far away the candlestick is from us? 30, 40 feet. 30, 40 feet. too few, friends. A bit shy of 70 feet away from us here. Now that you have that sense of reference here, and you have an idea of the scale that we're working with here, you now have an idea of how large Bigfoot's foot is, as it happens to be just here. Now, Bigfoot's foot here is primarily calcite. You can see that stark white there. To show you kind of the stark difference between our sections of our cave here, we have the half and half column just beside me. To its right, pure calcite. To the left, less than 30% iron. To give it that lovely coloration here. That's going to be thanks to the great big old iron deposit that makes it up the ceiling here. Now, as I've been kind of turning you in place here on this platform, fortunately enough, a line with almost true north. Now, between our two here, we have his workshop. Now, I've kind of poked a bit of fun with the fantastical nature here, friends. So I'm going to swing the pendulum back just a bit to the more mundane. Do I have any sports fans here in my tour today? Particularly baseball fans. Sound like a little bit here. Have any of you seen Babe Ruth's baseball bat before?
It looks like
Because if the answer is yes, and I tell you, unfortunately you haven't, because it's here inside my cave. Look at this right over here. And I can tell you that because that was made out of stone, so of course it's real. Now that smooth exterior difference means that our baseball bat over here is actually primarily a stalactite forming its way down. As opposed to where Santa happens to be residing here, we have these ridge platforms. This is mostly a stalagmite building their way up. Just gives you an idea of the difference between the two, because we do have both inside our cases. 70 feet across. Now Atlas here bears the weight of the entire mountainside above. But despite it being the most robust, it has one of the most delicate types of formations on it. Here towards the center of my light, you can see our lovely roller coaster here. Just beside it now, see those little sections that are kind of growing straight out, sometimes almost straight up. These are called haluxite. This is formed by hydrostatic pressure. As the water is forced through the rock, it builds up just a bit of an electrical current. Less than what it takes to make your hair stand on end on your arms.
Okay, so we're leaving this room, and I asked Huckleberry if he'd be kind enough to light up some of these formations. Was this what you were pointing out before?
This would be Allie the alligator here. Now that's a fantasy formation, not a actual classification of rock. But what you're seeing coming out of the formation here is called seepstone. It's basically forcing the water through the rock just the same way we sweat. Once the water gets to the surface, it has enough tension left that it stays there instead of falling. Creates these kind of protruding globulites, otherwise known as cave popcorn.
Look at that. All right, thank you.
You're welcome, friend.
See this? You sure do like your job, Huckleberry, don't you?
I like talking to folks mostly.
Yeah, look at this.
I do adore the cave, though.
Look at that. It almost looks like wax.
That it does.
Now, that's moisture on the
That
end
is
of that.
all moisture there, water forcing through.
Wow, very cool. Which way are we going?
To the left.
To the left. Okay. Back to the left.
We have our own version here. We have Our Lady of the Mountain, which is going to be just up there.
Sorry.
Oh, look at that. It's called the Lady of the Mountain?
Our Lady of the Mountain here.
Where's she at? I'm sorry.
It's going to be a little hard to see from just there. Yeah.
Ah.
It's actually kind of easier a little bit farther back for me to see over that ledge and see her back there.
There you can see it.
Now, friends, Our Lady of the Mountain here means our time in paradise has come to an end. Now, when we go to leave today, I'm going to be turning the lights on for that exit tunnel. We'll be making our way back out the same way we came in. Now, that wind is going to be trying to force that door in this way, which means it is going to take a fair bit more effort on my part to close that door behind us when we go through it, which means there's going to be a loud bang. This is perfectly natural. Don't fret, friends.
All right, and here we go. Thank you, Huckleberry. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Nice job.
All right. So, oh, it's much warmer out here. Oh, that was a nice tour. That was a really, really nice tour. I would give it.
And then
I'd give
she'll
it
give
2
her
thumbs
baby
up.
to the next mother over who
So,
holds both babies.
All
Well, she
right,
goes
folks.
out and
Have
then
a
she comes
wonderful
back
day.
and the other mother gives her.
You know, I realized on my way to the car that I said I would give you a shot inside here, the visitor center. Kind of looks like a cottage cheese ceiling, you know, that you would spray onto a ceiling. Very nice exhibit. Gives people a good opportunity to see what it would be like if they don't have the opportunity to go on the tour. That mountain lion.
And in 1908, President Theodore Roosevelt designated the area as Lewis and Clark National Monument.
All right, folks. Now, have a great day.